Hello interwebs and happy Labor Day for those of you in the United States. I hope if you are able to have a day off, I hope you are enjoying your day off from work or just relaxing or doing whatever you can in the midst of whatever's going on in the world right now. So last week I did a lot of videos on some really hard subjects, some great subjects and exciting subjects too, but some really hard ones. So let's just talk about something a little bit fun and something that I got to watch recently that I'm kind of very excited about. And that is Raised by Wolves, the new series on HBO Max that came from executive producer and also director of the first two episodes, Ridley Scott. I watched these episodes over on HBO Max. The first 3 episodes are out. I watched all 3, so this review is going to be on the first 3 episodes, though I believe there's going to be 8 or 10 of them throughout the season. I will say, I am a huge fan of Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott is one of my favorite directors of all time. I've loved everything he's done, from Blade Runner to Gladiator to Alien. But this show, Raised by Wolves, is actually closest in style and subject matter to one of his most contentious movies, Prometheus. Many of you may know Prometheus was the prequel movie, sort of pseudo-prequel spin-off movie to the Alien franchise that also got its own sequel, Alien Covenant, that was a bit more in line with the Alien movies, but also was kind of dealing with the same ideas from Prometheus and the same sort of storyline from Prometheus. And it was his most contentious work to date because it was one that was trying to deal with really heady issues, really sort of like big, like where are we from? What does life mean? What does evolution mean? And kind of focused more on those issues than it did on telling really specific, grounded stories with characters that we really liked. I'm actually a big fan of those movies, but they do have a lot of problems within them in terms of like story logic and story construction, but I really enjoyed the themes that they attempted to carry out, and I also really enjoyed the character of, I believe David was the name of the android in those movies. Now, the reason I bring those movies up in the context of this review is because Raised by Wolves feels in many ways to be a spiritual successor to those movies. Obviously, Ridley Scott, Alien Covenant didn't do well, and I know he wanted to sort of complete that trilogy with one final movie, and this show, Raised by Wolves, kind of feels like in many ways a way for him to sort of have his cake and eat it too, to sort of discuss similar issues as those Prometheus and Alien Covenant movies without actually having to be in that universe, because Fox or Disney probably won't spend money to at least continue his version or his vision of that trilogy, considering it didn't make a lot of money. So that's right there on its face. If that's not a selling point for you, let me go further into it. I think Raised by Wolves continues the legacy of those stories, but does a much better job of actually honing in on real characters and real situations. In many ways, this show is seeming to deal with a lot of archetypal characters that are meant to sort of represent bigger thematic and philosophical issues. And so the story basically goes like this. Humanity has been wiped out by a war between atheists and people of faith. A big religious war has gone on Earth in the 22nd century. There's like a new crusade. There's a bunch of different factions and religious organizations that have all been fighting each other. They even wear like crusade-like uniforms while holding guns and things like that. And this was sort of a big deal that happened in the past, and androids were part of this war. Again, kind of continuing the android thread from the Alien movies. But because everything went to crap on Earth, this probe was sent out into the world with 2 androids and some baby fetuses. And we follow these 2 androids, mother and father, again, pointing at like the archetypical philosophical themes, like their names are literally mother and father, 2 androids that land on a planet and give birth to 6 human babies in an attempt to continue the human line and sort of protect an endangered species, humanity. And the story kind of evolves from there, dealing with issues of faith versus atheism. Like the mother's trying to teach the kids, like we were part of the atheist community. You will not believe in faith. You're going to believe in yourselves. You're going to believe in atheism. Believing in something fantastical can comfort humanity, but only make us weaker. So it's sort of dealing with these big, heady issues. But unlike Prometheus, which again kind of got caught up in those big, heady issues, it does make these characters feel very real instead of being one-note sort of pushing of philosophical themes, which I really, really enjoy. Even the android characters, mother and father, get real characterization. There's this wonderful fact of the father android just likes to tell jokes. He's like, "Can I tell you a joke?" and he like goes off on these weird puns. He likes to say it to himself, and everyone kind of doesn't really enjoy that and thinks it's kind of a weird quirk of his. But I like that because it makes him feel like a real character. And that kind of gets at the core of this too. Are mother and father real people? Are they good enough to raise these kids and raise them up as actual humans, or are they going to fail because they are androids and inherently can't have true love for these children? And does mimicking love actually still represent love? If you pretend to be a thing, are you actually still eliciting that emotion? Kind of stuff that we got into with Data on Star Trek The Next Generation. Does mimicry actually make the thing real? And it's just really wonderful philosophical discussions that really ground these characters in real things rather than big philosophical discussions. All that being said, I want to talk a little bit about spoilers, so that's probably where I'll end my spoiler-free talk, or at least just about the general gist of the show. Going into the other 3 episodes, to talk a little bit more about spoilers, this actually just gets pushed out even further when we learn at one point that some of the the religious fanatics still exist, these crusade people, and they come down to the planet, and they want to take care of these kids. Also on the planet, just to make things even worse, there's these deep, dark holes in the ground, and there may be some creatures living down in those holes. We don't entirely know for sure what. So there's this like underlying current of eldritch alien horror within there too. Again, kind of evoking the Alien franchise. We do learn that some of the religious folks actually still exist, and they have an ark and land on the planet and want to take these kids away from the androids, saying like, it's better to be with us. But then that gets into these discussions of faith versus humanity, and faith versus atheism and things like that, that I think, again, are just wonderfully done because, I don't want to spoil too much because there are some twists and turns and really interesting and intriguing surprises for these characters that get into these themes of, like, can you mimic a thing? If you mimic a thing, does it make you a real thing? It gets into these ideas with these characters in a human way, not just in an android metaphor way, with the lead atheist character and how his relationship with his actual son gets played out. It's hard to talk about without spoiling too much, and just does a wonderful mixing of talking about what it means to be human and what it means to be atheist, and what it means to be a person of faith, and sort of how can we reconcile those two things, all with an undercurrent of science fiction and eldritch horror as well. Again, this just in many ways feels like an evolution or continuation of what Prometheus and Alien Covenant was, done in a much better way, because it's not trying to stick to what the franchise has to be. It doesn't have these like overarching rules of the franchise that it has to tie into. And also it works to make the characters and the situation feel more grounded in actual specifics of characters rather than just being vehicles for philosophical storytelling. And for that, I really enjoyed it. So, Raised by Wolves. Fantastic show. I'm very excited by it. The first 3 episodes I thought were absolutely wonderful, and I cannot recommend them enough. So if you have not watched them, go check them out. If you have watched them, I'd love to hear your comments and thoughts. Let's get the conversation going down in the down below. What did you think of Raised by Wolves, and should I continue reviewing more episodes as they come out? Let me know. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more reviews. Also, don't forget to help me out on Patreon if you can, or look at some of my podcasts that are going to be down in the doobly-doo. But beyond that, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope that you, as always, live long and prosper. Thank you so much to all of my patrons, especially Ashley Allen Bokikio, Miranda Janelle, Eli Berg-Moss, Ashlyn Solstice, Christina Dalliance, Greg Gillum, Stephen Clinard, Munir Amlani, Boyd and Mary Beth Earl, Wayne Twitchell, Ish the Mad, Buttoneer, Randy Thompson, Jemshin, Lorena Mesa, Mari Neckar, Wellington Marcus, John Steele, Michael Beam, William Stewart, Gavin Robinson, Jason Knott, Maeve, Subraxis, Tonya Trummer, Wen Dizzle-Bizzle, Gretchen Badger, Dante St. James, Polly Mina, Piston Twisted Garage, and Bree Beecher. Thank you all so much for your continued support.